But look at how long. 5-time, 7-time All-Star. She been in the league 7 years? Bro, how come ain't nobody know about A'ja Wilson until Caitlyn got here? I'm just saying. If A'ja Wilson was this damn good, this dynamic of a player, why come the viewership is the way it is? Now, why come we didn't know about A'ja Wilson 7 years ago, 6 years ago?
A'ja Wilson appears to be completely rattled. A startling new report from the Saudi Women's Basketball League revealed that Caitlin Clark's market value is nearly 10 times higher than any WNBA player, sending waves of shock throughout the basketball world. International sponsors are now calling Clark a billion-dollar powerhouse for women's hoops, while the league's reigning MVP watches stunned as she suddenly becomes secondary in the global spotlight. Clark's skyrocketing value isn't merely surprising. It's humiliating for anyone who once thought the WNBA stood at the pinnacle of women's basketball.
There's been numbers that have kind of been thrown around on what kind of contracts they could offer some of these players, and $50 million was one of the numbers that they could reportedly throw at a player like Caitlin Clark.
How did a sophomore from Iowa suddenly become a global money-making juggernaut? And why did it drive A'ja Wilson to her breaking point? The Saudi report wasn't simply listing salaries. It measured influence, reach, and market power. When those numbers surfaced, they revealed a harsh truth the WNBA had quietly ignored for months. Caitlin Clark isn't just the league's top player. She embodies the league itself. A'ja may rule the paint, but Clark commands attention worldwide. Her name alone generates millions in merchandise, ticket revenue, and sponsorship deals. Whenever Clark is involved, profit follows immediately.
People comparing A'ja Wilson to Bill Russell, and bro, if the Indiana Fever had Caitlin Clark, hell, not even Caitlin, had Kelsey Mitchell not got hurt, I believe the Indiana Fever would have beaten the Las Vegas Aces. Tell the whole story. Like, don't get up here trying to sit up here like this is a dynasty of a damn team and all this and that because they went on their little winning streak. I don't want to hear none of that shit. If the Fever was the Fever originally, the Las Vegas Aces would not have a championship. They stole this one. This is the last one they're going to get for a mighty long time.
The explosive new report reveals that Caitlin Clark's projected market value in Saudi Arabia's upcoming Women's League could easily surpass $50 million annually, with global brands scrambling to attach their logos to her image. That's the exact moment A'ja Wilson's calm exterior finally shattered. But this isn't just about any player. Wilson is the reigning MVP, a 3-time champion, and the driving force behind Las Vegas basketball. She's earned every accolade, fought tirelessly for respect, and built her legacy from scratch. Yet instead of dwelling on envy over Clark's meteoric rise, Wilson might need to ask the tougher question: can the WNBA truly survive without Caitlin Clark? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
This is much bigger money than any other country has. And if you think for a second that they won't pay $50 million, $100 million, who knows, maybe $200 million to a player like Caitlin Clark, is there an amount of money that is just too big to pass?
Then along comes Caitlin Clark, only one season into her professional career, and suddenly she's being celebrated as basketball's financial superstar. The timing couldn't have been more dramatic. Nike had already committed to a record-shattering $28 million endorsement deal, the largest in women's basketball history. But after the big reveal, nothing. No commercials, no signature shoe, no formal rollout, just silence. And that silence soon spoke louder than any press conference ever could.
Ratings are up 300% since Caitlin Clark entered the league. Her games averaged 1.2 million viewers. Her return game peaked at 2.8 million viewers on ABC, one of the highest ever. This is in the middle of a random game in the season. She's featured nearly half of the most watched WNBA games, period. And I would argue that she brought a lot of attention to the league in and of itself, not just her. Clark is responsible for 26% of all WNBA economic activity. She's expected to help drive $875 million to $1 billion in 2025 revenue. The Fever's franchise value jumped from $900 million to $340 million. Oh my God, they need to pay this girl.
Fans began to murmur, asking the same question over and over. Why would Nike hand out that massive deal, then suddenly vanish? Soon, rumors started swirling. Whispers that Nike was hesitant and afraid of backlash if they launched a signature shoe for a white rookie before giving one to Aya Wilson, a longtime MVP-caliber athlete and proven face of the league. That's when Aya fired off her now iconic cryptic post. What's delayed isn't denied. She didn't drop any names, but everyone knew exactly who she was talking about. The message was clear: I'm done being overlooked. And just like that, social media exploded. The internet divided instantly. Half claimed Clark's rise was a victory for women's basketball, while the other half saw it as blatant favoritism. Another example of who the media decides to elevate. But beneath all the noise, deeper issues started boiling to the surface: race, marketability, and what truly sells in women's sports. Analysts quickly revisited history, pointing out how Sheryl Swoopes became the first woman with a Nike signature shoe in the 90s, a groundbreaking milestone. Yet since then, almost every woman to receive that honor has been white. So when Nike crowned Clark before Wilson, it didn't feel like evolution. It felt like history repeating itself. And then came the next bombshell. Leaked reports later revealed that Nike was planning to delay Caitlin Clark's signature shoe launch until 2026, all for the sake of optics. Allegedly, the company didn't want to anger WNBA fans by releasing Clark's line before Aya Wilson's. But if those reports were true, Nike had trapped itself in a massive PR nightmare, trying to please everyone and ending up pleasing no one. Then came the backlash. Commentators started questioning the entire system. Why is the hierarchy in women's basketball like this? Why weren't we hearing Aya Wilson's name 5 or 6 years ago? One voice cut through the noise, saying, if it weren't for Caitlin Clark, no one would even be talking about Aya Wilson right now. It was harsh, but it reflected a growing divide in the sport. Meanwhile, Europe and the Middle East weren't interested in politics or optics. They saw pure profit. Clark's highlight reels were trending in multiple languages. Her name was packing arenas across the US, and international clubs were reportedly begging to sign her for their off-season tournaments. That's when Aya Wilson's patience finally snapped. She had just led her team through another dominant season, and yet, every conversation, every headline, every sponsorship pitch circled back to Caitlin Clark. Wilson's supporters argued that she deserved equal recognition, that she was the foundation of the WNBA, a champion whose legacy was built on grit, not media hype. But the cold reality was impossible to ignore. Numbers don't care about emotions. Caitlin Clark was outdrawing the entire league. The Saudi valuation made it official. Her global reach, fan engagement, and commercial power towered over everyone else. This was no longer just a rivalry between two stars. It had evolved into a much bigger question. What truly defines value in sports? Dominance or demand? While Aya Wilson saw a newcomer skipping the line she had spent years climbing, the rest of the world saw something entirely different. The birth of women's basketball's first true global superstar. Then came the twist nobody could have predicted. After months of uneasy silence, Nike finally broke through the tension with a major announcement. Aya Wilson's long-awaited signature shoe, the A1, was officially set to release in 2025. Fans erupted in celebration, calling it long overdue justice, proof that Wilson was finally getting the respect she deserved. But then, the truth leaked. Aya had actually known about the deal for nearly 2 years. She'd been under a strict non-disclosure agreement the entire time. So while fans were online waging war against Nike, accusing them of favoritism and disrespect, Wilson already had her shoe secured behind the scenes. That revelation flipped the entire narrative upside down. The so-called feud, the outrage, the divide, it was all the result of rumors, bad timing, and miscommunication. Nike hadn't ignored Wilson. They were just moving at their own slow, strategic pace. But by the time that truth came out, it didn't matter. Public perception had already chosen its hero, and all the momentum belonged to Caitlin Clark. While Nike carefully handled its internal politics, Clark was out there rewriting basketball history in real time. She wasn't just selling jerseys. She was selling out NBA arenas. Her games had turned into cultural events. TV networks were fighting for broadcasting rights. Overseas leagues, including that same Saudi powerhouse, were circling with life-changing offers just to bring her across the ocean. When Aya Wilson's long-awaited shoe finally hit the shelves, it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like an afterthought. Because no matter how powerful her brand became, the narrative was already written. Caitlin Clark isn't chasing anyone. The world is chasing her. And that's the part that truly stings. Because for Aya Wilson, this was never just about money. It was about validation, respect, and recognition she had already earned long before the spotlight shifted. Years of dominance, 3 championships, multiple MVPs, and still, all anyone seems to talk about is Caitlin Clark, the rookie who refused to wait her turn, who shattered the system and rewrote the rules of women's basketball. Meanwhile, the WNBA is starting to look like a punchline in the sports world. Ticket prices are tanking. And what should be the crown jewel of the season, the Las Vegas Aces versus Phoenix Mercury Finals, is on track to be one of the lowest-rated championship series in recent memory. The WNBA Finals have imploded. Tickets are being sold for less than the price of a coffee, and fans are leaving arenas in frustration. How did the league that spent all summer boasting about record-breaking growth suddenly collapse in a half-empty stands and $6 championship seats? And why is Aya Wilson directing her frustration toward the one player who isn't even in the building? As one analyst put it, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when we choose to deceive. Something isn't adding up. Are the numbers real? Are the ratings honest?" It's starting to feel like there might be some behind-the-scenes manipulation, a little marketing magic, to cover up a hard truth. Because here's the reality nobody wants to say out loud. This isn't just about a frustrated star. It's about a league trapped in denial. For months, the WNBA built its entire image around an illusion of unstoppable growth. New fans, new sponsors, new momentum. But the moment Caitlin Clark was eliminated, that illusion vanished overnight. Now, the so-called historic finals look more like a ghost town. The Las Vegas Aces home arena, once the hottest ticket in women's sports, can't even fill half its seats, not for a preseason scrimmage, but for a championship game, for 2 straight nights. The stands looked emptier than a preseason scrimmage. Tickets that once cost a premium were now going for as little as $25, some dropping below $6. You could literally spend more on parking or a Caitlin Clark t-shirt than on a final seat. And here's where things get messy. The controversy leading up to this championship is still tied directly to Clark's name. Remember when the Las Vegas Aces eliminated Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever? Clark didn't even play that night, yet fans swear the officiating leaned heavily toward the Aces, practically pushing them into the finals. That it's surreal. The same league that spent months boasting about record-breaking attendance and booming popularity now looks like it's hosting a clearance sale instead of a championship series. And Aya Wilson's reaction? Pure, visible frustration. But instead of asking what went wrong, she's pointing the finger at Clark and her fans, the very people who built the hype from the ground up. Because let's be real, Caitlin Clark changed everything. The moment she stepped onto a WNBA court, ticket sales exploded overnight. Teams that couldn't fill half their arenas were suddenly selling out. Merch flew off the shelves. Every major network wanted her games on air. Clark didn't just play basketball. She transformed the league into a pop culture event. But instead of embracing that shift, too many players treated her like an outsider. Hard fouls, passive-aggressive interviews, petty social media jabs, resentment quietly replaced respect. And while all this tension boiled over, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert stayed silent, pretending not to notice the storm building inside her own league. Now, as Game 3 of the WNBA Finals tips off, the headlines say it all. Tickets are going for just $10. The so-called golden era of the WNBA looks more like it's fading right before our eyes. Yeah, you heard that right. And no, your speakers aren't broken. You can get into Game 3 of the WNBA Finals for just $10. $10. That's less than an In-N-Out combo with animal fries and a small lemonade. Absolute madness. And now the league is facing an even bigger scandal. Accusations of posting fake ratings for Game 1. You can't make this up. Without Caitlin Clark, there's no buzz, no spark. The finals feel more like a wake than a championship. The camera pans across the stands, and you can literally count entire rows of empty seats behind the commentators. The broadcast team keeps raising their voices just to fill the awkward silence. What was supposed to be the league's grand finale now feels like a low-energy scrimmage airing on public access TV for a league that spent all season screaming about record growth. That's a brutal reality check. Look at the numbers. When Clark's Indiana Fever faced the Aces earlier this year, courtside seats were going for thousands of dollars. Those same seats now? Barely $500, and even those aren't selling. Social media is tearing the league apart with screenshots of ticket maps drowned in blue dots. One viral comment said, "You can buy finals seats for the price of a Big Mac combo." Another joked, "The silence in this arena is louder than the ref's whistle." It's funny, until you realize how tragic it actually is. Because everyone knows what's missing. The energy, the excitement, the draw, all of it walked out with Caitlin Clark. Legion Hoops even posted, "You can watch Game 3 of the WNBA Finals for $10 tonight." Think about that. It literally costs more to stream the game at home than to go see it live in person. That's wild. The truth is simple. The WNBA's growth wasn't organic. It was the Caitlin Clark effect. She was the reason casual fans tuned in, the reason corporate sponsors cared, the reason ESPN put women's basketball on its front page instead of burying it beneath high school highlights. Clark gave the league what money can't buy, mainstream relevance. But instead of protecting that, the WNBA treated her like a threat. And now, the finals feel lifeless because the league pushed away the very audience that made it matter. You can't spend half a season mocking Caitlin Clark's supporters and then expect those same fans to fill arenas once she's gone. Fans remember everything. They saw the hard fouls, the jealous stares, the eye rolls. They watched referees swallow whistles, veterans taunt her after games, and the commissioners sit back in silence. They witnessed the league turn hostile toward its biggest attraction, and then they simply tuned out. Meanwhile, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert is still smiling for cameras, insisting that the league has never been stronger. Really? Because when a finals ticket costs less than 3 bowling games, that's not strength, that's embarrassment. Even the players are starting to speak out. Sophie Cunningham has hinted that leadership is completely out of touch. Nafisa Collier has voiced similar frustrations. The cracks in the WNBA's foundation aren't just visible, they're spreading fast. Aya Wilson's frustration isn't random. It's a symptom of a much deeper issue. It's what happens when the league's top star realizes she's holding a championship trophy that nobody's watching. She's angry. Yes, but she's angry at the wrong person. This isn't Caitlin Clark's fault. This is the league's failure to understand why people started watching in the first place. Clark wasn't just a ratings boost, she was a movement. She represented energy, hope, and a new generation that believed women's basketball could matter on a global stage. But instead of embracing that change, the league's veterans rejected it. They resented it. And now that resentment has them playing in half-empty arenas. Fans don't stay loyal to marketing slogans, they stay loyal to people. When the WNBA made Clark the villain, it alienated the very audience that gave it life. You can't spend 6 months insulting someone's favorite player and then beg those same fans to buy finals merch. They've moved on, and the WNBA has no one to blame but itself. Now, the league's biggest name, Aya Wilson, stands in front of microphones trying to explain empty seats instead of celebrating victories. She's the reigning MVP, a 3-time champion, and somehow she's still losing the narrative. Because here's the truth, authenticity sells. And right now, Caitlin Clark's authenticity is the only thing the WNBA ever truly had. The league built its entire year on her shoulders, then pushed her aside the moment she made people uncomfortable. They let jealousy steer the conversation, let bias dictate the headlines. And now they're stunned that the energy is gone. You can't cash in on someone's popularity and then pretend she doesn't exist. You can't demand bigger TV contracts when your championship feels like a matinee scrimmage. That what's happening isn't just bad optics, it's a warning shot. Fans didn't come for corporate PR or staged narratives. They came for Caitlin Clark's fire, her passion, her authenticity. And when that was gone, so were they. Fans came for competition, not complaints. And until the WNBA truly understands that, the so-called new era it keeps boasting about is headed for collapse under its own ego. The finals were meant to showcase that women's basketball had truly arrived. Instead, they exposed just how fragile the illusion really was. The excitement, the buzz, the sold-out arenas. All of it revolved around a single player. And now that she's absent, the league appears completely lost. So maybe, instead of pointing fingers at Caitlin Clark, Aya Wilson should be asking a different question. Will the WNBA survive without Caitlin Clark? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Click the video on the screen, and we'll catch you in the next one.